Hey guys, so a year ago I released a video called What is the Best Cheap Wireless System? And so far to date it's been my most successful video and has the most views and the most comments out of all my videos. So today's video is a follow-up to that video. Since I've done that video, I've actually done more wireless reviews. I've added ones like the SWIFF audio one, the LEKAto WS70, one by NUX, and then a 3.5 millimeter wireless transmitter as well. So I'm including all of those in this video. So if you haven't watched that main video, I would go back and watch that first. If you're just here to look for what is the best cheap wireless system, I would watch that one first because that explains the most detail about my opinions and my experience with these cheap wireless systems. So go watch that first and then watch this because this is a continuation from that video. So in this video, I'm going to go over stuff that I've learned from reading some of the other comments. So thank you for everyone who has commented on that video and showed me some situations where these do work for you and where they might not work for you. I'm going to clarify a few things from that video. There's a couple of things that people are misunderstanding. I'm going to clarify that. And overall, this is just part 2. What is the best cheap wireless guitar system out there? So before we get started, I post videos like this all the time, stuff on wireless in your monitors, finding cheap stuff for musicians on Amazon, MIDI programming, stuff like that. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to ring the bell. And if you find this video helpful, hitting the like button is a free way to support the channel. All right, let's get started. Okay, so first off, right off the bat, the thing that most people misunderstood from the video is in the tone samples, tone 2 and tone 6 had this horrible type of sound. Sounded like this. That is not how those systems sounds normally. I included that in the video because I recorded that and I wasn't listening. I just recorded the riff and then went back and listened to the audio. And I noticed, oh, I'm getting interference. So the reason why I included that is because that is the sound when these 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz systems do get interference. One of them was on 2.4, the X5 one, and one of them was on 5.8, the Amun one. So it was showing you the type of sound that you get when you get interference. They don't sound like that when I go and play at other venues with them. They're fine. And again, it depends on the environment. So that Amun one, that was actually the first time that that happened. It was in my home studio room. I don't get a clean signal for those specifically in my studio room. It just happens that the frequency of like my Wi-Fi router interferes with those two systems specifically. That's why I included it in the video so you could hear what these sound like when they do get interference. Because they are cheaper. That's part of the thing. They don't have a lot of frequency options. So you can get interference. That's why I included it in the video. But no, those do not normally sound like that. That is the sound of interference, and any of these can get interference, especially 2.4 and sometimes 5.8. So another question I get asked often is, hey, what about this one? What about there's one that I keep getting asked, can you review the Joyo model is the one I seem to be getting the most of, or what about this specific one from this other, no-name brand that I'm not familiar with? I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, and I guess people kind of just skip by it, is that a lot of these are almost, they're so similar. The main difference is what frequency they transmit on. So some of them are on 2.4, some of them are on 5.8. Some of the ones like the Swift Audio and the WS90 are in the 900 megahertz region. So they're all different like that. The only time that I'm going to do kind of an updated video to that is when I find something unique. So for example, the NUX one, when I did a video on that, that came in this really cool charging case. So the case itself charges the wireless. It's really cool. And this one specifically is meant to work with active pickups. So I did a review on that one. This one by LEKATO, it's a 3.5 millimeter one. So I use this for an iPad. So I get a wireless signal out of my iPad and to send a click signal to our ears. This is what I use for that. And then this goes into our mixer because it has, you can either use it as 3.5 millimeter or as 1/4 inch. That was something different. So I decided to do a review on that one. So the WS70, that one transmits on 900 megahertz. So I did a review on that. Same with the Swift Audio ones. But all these other knockoff brands, you can notice that they even look very similar. The main difference with them is the frequencies that they transmit on. That's the main difference with them, especially these cheap ones. It's like the Boss one, it has like more battery life and it doesn't it doesn't bend and stuff like that. There's little changes like that don't really matter, in all honesty. The frequency is still one of the biggest differences with that. So if you do find one that is unique and different, please leave a comment down below. I'm always interested in checking that out. And, my channel does well with these cheap wireless anyway, so I definitely want to check out more. But if it looks the same, if it's on 2.4, you get about 5 hours of battery life, charges over micro USB, they're all very, very similar. The main difference, again, is the frequency that it's on. But if you find something different, please leave a comment down below. Okay, so some updates that I found based on these comments. So thank you again to everyone who did leave comments, even if you were a little snarky with them. The thing I've noticed is that these work with my setup. So with my setup, I usually either gig with a Helix or an HX Stomp, and that's my only setup. I go guitar into the HX Stomp or Helix, out to front of house. I don't use an amp. I'm all direct, and I use it with my in-ears. Either that, or I'm acoustic. With acoustic, I'm also direct as well. These work with my setup. A lot of people seem to have them work with their amp and stuff like that as well. So a lot of people are using amps. It goes in their pedal board, and it sounds fine. A couple of differences that I found using some of these based on the comments. So some of them do not work with active pickups. I do mention this in the video, but I'm going to reiterate it again because even though I mentioned it, there's still some people saying this doesn't work with my guitar. Some of them, they just don't work with active pickups. The two that I do recommend if you are looking for active pickup ones, the SWIFF audio one seems to have the best. That was a weird way to hold this. The SWIFF audio one seems to have the best results for active pickups. However, this new X one, the one with the charging case, this one specifically, they advertise it as working with active pickups. So those are the two that I would recommend looking at if you need something with active pickups. The other ones might work fine, but every now and then I'll get a comment saying that it didn't work with their setup. I'm not sure why, but if you're using an active pickup, I recommend either SWIFF audio or the new X one. My 2 cents. The other thing these types of plug and play cheap wireless seem to not do well with are fuzz pedals. I'm not a fuzz guy. And like I said, I'm going into my HX Stomp or my Helix and I'm out. I don't have multiple pedals. Some people say with a fuzz pedal, they get a high level of noise. So the fuzz pedal is already kind of loud and buzzy anyways. I mean, that's the tone of a fuzz pedal. But with these, I guess it kind of can amplify that tone and it can make it unusable. So either get a noise gate or realize that these might not work with a fuzz pedal. Again, the one by New X seems to be the one that works best with that. That's kind of the way that they designed it, is very low noise, very low hum. So with fuzz pedals, you might want to, if you do have a problem with one of them, check out the new X one, or that SWIFF audio one seems to be okay with it as well. So some people also have trouble with the acoustic guitars. Now this doesn't happen all the time. Like I said, I gig with it with my acoustic and I have no problems with it. My singer gigs with that SWIFF audio one every show with his acoustic and has no problems with it. So whenever I do like a fly gig, I usually end up bringing some of these. We did a gig in Key West recently and we had a rental acoustic for my singer. I brought 3 different ones. I honestly can't remember which ones I brought. I think I brought the SWIFF audio ones, which is usually the one I recommend, the WS70, and I believe the Black Moon one. Or I might have brought the new X one. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. But all 3 of them, he turns the volume all the way up. It's all the way up because he doesn't always use it. So he'll turn the volume off when it's off and then turn it just all the way up so he doesn't have to think and fiddle around and put it on into the center. When it was all the way up, it would like hit this gate or something like that and it would cut out. So that seems to be a problem with some of these as well. If the signal is too hot going into it, then it can hit a gate type of thing and cut out the signal. Again, that might be a problem with like active pickups. So test it out as soon as you get it to make sure that it works. And if you turn your volume all the way up, make sure that's the way that you're testing this out to see if it works. But for the most part, acoustic guitars do seem to be fine with these. It's just occasionally I'll find that as a problem with the acoustic guitar. All right, now some people will say that the signal's too hot, and some people will say that the signal's too quiet. I haven't found a pattern as to what is causing this, but some people say the signal's too hot, and some people say the signal's too quiet. Some of them, they do feel like they have a little less sustain to it. There's a little bit less of a volume type of thing. But I mean, you can also just turn up the volume, on your amp or on your pedal or whatever. So that's not the end of the world. Sometimes the signal is too hot. So I tried lending these to a violin player and all of them were too hot. Like, the signal was just way too hot. From the violin to the wireless into her preamp, it was just too loud. All of them were too loud, so we had to switch to a different one. That's something that, keep in mind, these are cheap systems. Once you start buying higher end stuff, you get the ability to turn up or down the volume or the gain or the sensitivity of it. That's not included in these. So if the signal is too hot, you can't use it. If they do work for your setup, like I said, they work with all of my guitars, but if it doesn't work with yours, you don't have a way to change that. So just keep that in mind. And this leads me to some of the most important things to keep in mind is, first of all, test it out as soon as you get it. As soon as you get it, make sure that it works with your gear. Like I said, it works with mine. There's a lot of comments saying that it works well with them. However, you might be one of the people that it doesn't work well with. Always test your gear as soon as you get it. Problem solve as well. If you're like, oh, this isn't working with this pedal, see if it's the pedal. So plug like directly into the amp or, skip the fuzz pedal or something like that. Really problem solve to see what the issue is. If it does not work with your setup, return it and try one of the other ones. So always make sure you have a way to return it. Amazon's got a great return policy. Again, links for all of these will be in the description down below. And they are Amazon affiliate links, so they are a free way to support the channel at no extra cost to you, so I would appreciate it. Always test out your gear. Problem solve, spend the day problem solving. If you think something is wrong, if you think the tone is too bright, try just turning down the treble on your amp a little bit and dialing in the tone a little bit more. If you think the signal's too quiet, try turning up. If the signal's too hot and you can't fix that, return it, send it back, and try a different one. Always try out your gear when you get it, especially when you're buying cheap stuff. I'm going to keep reiterating this. You have to keep in mind what you're buying. These are $40 up to $150 wireless. The entry level, like Shure and Sennheiser, is going to cost you $350. So some of these are literally a tenth of the price of like entry level, higher end wireless. You're not going to be able to scan for as many channels. Some of them you can't scan at all. I think most of them you have at least like 4 channels, but higher end stuff, you have, 50 different channel options that you can look for a clean channel on. You have to manage your expectations. It's cheap for a reason. Does that mean it's not going to work? No, absolutely. I still use these and they still work fine with my setup. If you really, really need a super solid, reliable wireless system, spend the money to get the Shure or the Sennheiser one. I've done videos on multiple ones of those. I personally use these for gigs where I'm playing acoustic guitar. If it for some reason doesn't work, I can switch over to a cable. I don't think I've ever actually had to switch to a cable at any of my gigs, but I also have like 20 of these now. So I always have other options. But I personally have never had it where I was not able to use these and I had to switch to a cable. If one of them didn't work, I would switch to another one. It was fine. But you just got to manage your expectations when spending $40 to $100 on a wireless. That's a discounted price for a reason. All right, and then one thing I'm going to be a little more. I don't know. I'm not upset about it, but if you're a tone snob, own up to that. There is nothing wrong with that. If you love finding a pure, super clean tone, you love analog stuff. Everyone has their own passion. I'm more of like a MIDI guy. If I find a cool controller that has flashing buttons and you can change the color of it and do weird stuff with your guitar, I'm more interested in that than finding a super authentic tube amp. That's me personally. That's what I enjoy. I personally would rather have wireless and not have cables dangling at my feet because I hate having cables dangling at my feet. If it does give me a little bit of tone loss, to me, that's not the end of the world. You might be different. But if you are a tone snob, seriously, why are you looking at $40 wireless systems? That's literally cheaper than your Mugami cables. Just some common logic here. If you're a tone snob, look at the Sennheiser, look at the Shure systems if you want a really, really solid wireless. For me, if there is tone loss with these, I've always said that I've plugged in and I've never noticed a tone loss with these. I've never gone, oh, that sounds awful, except for one, which I did a video on. When I plugged in, I was like, this sounds terrible. I'm not using it. All the other ones, I'm like, oh, that's my tone. But if you're a tone snob, just be logical, but own up to it. There's nothing wrong with being a tone snob. I use that term in a polite way. I'm not trying to be a douche. Everyone has the things that they love about music. If you want a pure tone, you got to own up to that and don't look at $40 wireless systems. All right, also keep in mind, how important are the gigs that you're doing with these? Like I said, I use these still for gigs where I'm playing acoustic, and if it's not the end of the world if I have to switch over to a cable. I did use one of these I played in front of 50,000 people, and I had my guitar and I had to play banjo on 2 songs. I use it for the banjo. I don't necessarily recommend that because they are cheaper for a reason, but it worked. It worked fine at that gig, and I did have a cable ready to go just in case. But if you are doing a really important event, I mean, all of them are fun, but like, is it the end of the world if you have to switch over to a cable in the middle of a song, or are you playing a big stage? That 50,000 people show was a big stage, so I would, run up to the front for my solos and stuff like that. So I wanted to be wireless. If it didn't work, I had a cable ready to go. So just keep that in mind. All right, do I still recommend these systems? Yes, absolutely. I still gig with these all the time. You just have to manage your expectations and know what you're getting. When I'm playing a high-end event, I bring my nice Sennheisers. My Sennheisers are a portable one anyway, so it's not too tough to bring around. But especially when I'm doing travel gigs, and especially if I'm doing acoustic gigs, I almost always use these. I also have them as a backup. I use them at rehearsals. I bring them all the time to rehearsals. I use them all the time around the house because I hate getting tangled up in cables and stuff like that because I go direct into my computer and it works great. We've been fortunate enough that we get to fly and play some really cool places. I took these to Cancun, Turks and Caicos, Dominican Republic, all sorts of places like that. I still use these and I still bring them, especially for travel gigs. I mean, it's just so easy just to put these in my case. It's just so easy to bring these. If one of them happens to not work, and I've had that happen before, I switch it out to another one, and usually I'm able to find one that does work. So yes, I absolutely still recommend these, but just keep in mind all the things I mentioned in this video. And then last but not least, I still recommend what I said in the video. In the original video, I hadn't found the 900 megahertz ones. So I said to get one on 5.8 and then one on 2.4. So you have a backup for less than $100. I still stand by that. However, what I would say is if you can get 1, 2, or 3, I do recommend that. You can get up to 3 of these for $150. That's 3 wireless systems for under the less than half the price of an entry-level Shure system. So for the first one, if you're just buying one of them, the one that I've seemed to have found the most success with is the SWIFF audio one. This one seems to be the best. It seems to work with active pickups. It's a 900 megahertz, which I like better than 2.4 especially, and even more than 5.8. Or these LEKATO WS70s are also really good. Those are the two that are in 900 megahertz. I recommend getting that one first. So it's going to run you about $50 to $40. If you do need one with active pickups, really look into that NUX one because that's what they specifically are targeting. Plus that carrying case is really cool. After that, I would get one in 5.8 because that is far more stable than 2.4 gigahertz. And that's going to run you about another $50. So it's 2 wireless for $100. I usually recommend the Amun one, but the Amun one has fallen off the face of Amazon for some reason. You can't find them anywhere. You can still find them, but the LEKATO ones or the GETARIA ones, those I've found work really well. I bet you they use very similar chips and everything too. So I'd recommend getting a 5.8 one for about $50. If you would like to have another one, just to be safe, because again, the main difference is the frequencies that they transmit on. And then get, a $40 wireless like the GETARIA or the LEKATO on 2.4 gigahertz. 2.4 still works. It's not, 100% never going to work. It works probably 80 to 90% of the time. And some people have it work all the time. I have a friend whose 2.4 gigahertz has never failed on him, but I've had issues with it. So if you're going active pickups, SWIFF Audio and the NUX, those are the two to check out. If you're getting one, I recommend the SWIFF Audio one. Backup one would be the WS70 because those are in the 900 megahertz. Then get one on 5.8 and then get one on 2.4. That's the way that I do that. That's the way when I take these to a gig, I always have 3 different options of 3 different frequencies I can transmit on just in case if one of them happens to not work. All right, so hope that helped you guys out. If you guys found this content helpful, just do me a favor, just hit the like button, especially if you made it all the way to the end of this video with all my ramblings. I'm assuming you got something out of it. Hitting the like button is a free way to support the channel, push the video into the YouTube algorithm and stuff like that, so I would definitely appreciate that. If you guys do find a unique system, something different than everything that I've gone over, that NUX carrying case, that 3.5 millimeter one, there is one by Phoenix Pro that does transmit in the 500 megahertz that I wanted to check out. So I will do a video on that one because that is in a different frequency, because then you can have 4 different frequency options. I think that's overkill at this point, but 500 megahertz is one of my favorite frequencies to transmit on and most reliable. So I'm definitely going to do a video on that when that one comes out. But if you guys see any other ones that have something unique about them, let me know. I'm definitely willing to check those out. So thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to follow me on my social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Scott Ewell Music. Check out some of my other videos that are on the screen, especially if you want to actually get a more higher end system and you're looking to spend the money, especially the Sennheiser one that I did a review on recently. So check that one out by clicking the link on your screen now or clicking some of the other video links on your screen. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.